I'm going to kick off actually. So, because although we've got 90 minutes today, having done several of these events, I know how rapidly that time will go past. So, just once again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. If you don't know me, I'm Lloyd Skinner. I'm the CEO of Greyfly. .ai today. This event, we actually have had close to 700 people register across almost 100 countries as well. So for me, that's fantastic, and just goes to show how important AI in project management is. And this is firmly at the forefront of both us as panelists today, but also all of the professional bodies. And hopefully we're going to give you some new knowledge and some new insights about now, next, and later around AI and project management. Today, I'm really fortunate to be joined by four global experts around project management. I'm just going to introduce them. He says, just as he's not able to change his screen, just 1 second, if I may. Just a minor technical difficulty. Okay. Let me just introduce everybody quickly, and this will save some time. First of all, Loredana Abramo, professor at Boston University. She has 30 years of experience in project management, business operations, process development, professional competency development, and delivering international projects. She's currently a professor at Boston University Met College, but has worked in senior PM and PMO roles for the likes of Nokia, Lucent Technologies, AT&T. Welcome, Loredana.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to move on to the first of our Ricardos. So Ricardo Sastre and Martín. Ricardo has over 20 years experience, primarily in project management and PMOs across 40 countries. He currently works as a principal consultant in project management at Microsoft and has also worked in various sectors at other companies, including Ericsson and Telefonica. He holds an MBA, and I notice lots and lots and a growing list of PMI accreditations. In between that busy day job, he's also doing lots of volunteering, writing some thought leadership and winning some work-related awards, and also is delivering many talks in and around AI and project management. Welcome, Ricardo. Welcome, Ricardo. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry. Next up is Dr. Josh Ramirez. His focus is on redefining project management through science, where his belief is that about 70% of project performance is attributed to human factors, and therefore he is suggesting there is room for improvement in project execution. In particular, he believes projects can be made more efficient through behavioral science, and we should design project management around human cognition to help reduce errors and accelerate projects. He's the CEO of the Institute for Neuro and Behavioral Project Management. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Thank you for sparing the time, Josh. And lastly, but not least, Dr. Ricardo Vargas, ex-chair of Latin PMI, a leading voice in project management and certainly a pioneer in this whole area of AI in project management. Ricardo's delivered hundreds of keynote addresses in many countries. His LinkedIn courses have now had over 125,000 students. His 5-minute podcast which has been hosted since 2007, has reached 14 million views. He's written and sold many books on project management, which have been translated into many languages. He's received the highest recognition from PMI, the Fellow Award. He was formerly directed the United Nations Office for Project Services for Infrastructure and Project Management Group. He continues to push the boundaries with thought leadership around AI in project management. Welcome, Ricardo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be with all of you to share some thoughts on what is happening in AI. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And personal thanks to you all for attending today. Like I said, I really wanted to whistle through those introductions. You can obviously look to link in with any of the panelists or read their bios in more detail. But we're really looking forward to a robust discussion. And I said earlier, it's around this now, next and later theme. So what's happening now? What is looking for the next? So now being, next being up to 1 to 5 years away, and then longer term beyond 5 years. Just to break the conversation slightly, we're also going to do a short survey and look at the results of that. We're going to attempt to have some Q&As at the end of the call. We've already had some Q&As in, so please, just to remind you, the Q&A button is available in Teams, so please do drop any Q&As that you may have into there, and we'll look to address those at the end of the agenda. So without further ado, our first area is just, let's bring ourselves up to speed with the current state of AI in project management and what is possible. And apologies, because we've got two Ricardos, I'm going to refer to Ricardo S and Ricardo V. Apologies for that from anybody. But Ricardo S, I wondered whether you wanted to take the lead on this part of the conversation in terms of what is possible around AI in project management today.
Yeah, sure. So basically, from my role, I have the opportunity to be in both sides. So in one side, I'm leading digital transformations programs where one of the technologies we are using is AI. And on the other hand, I'm using AI for leading my projects and my programs. So I have the view from both sides. And the first thing is that when we talk about AI in project management, compared with other professions and other roles, we are in a very preliminary status. So we are using AI in other roles and different use cases with much more capabilities than the one we are using right now in project management. And there are several reasons for that. But basically, looking back about how the technology has evolved for project management, there is some organizations started using automation that, by the way, is not artificial intelligence, because the automation is based on predefined rules. So you have an input, and based on the predefined rule that you have defined, once you get the input, you get an output, but it's predefined. So there's not intelligence in that. Some organizations have already started some years ago using it. Not all, because what I see in my conversation with the customers is that there is different levels of maturity in using AI in project management, but it was the first step. Then 2 years ago, everybody knew that there was something called generative AI, thanks to ChatGPT, and everybody started using it. So many organizations has jumped directly to Gen AI, that we all know that increase productivity, allowing different features to be used by us. But not everybody is exploiting it because at maximum level, because basically what is happening is that many people start using it, and after some prompts they say, I don't see the value, because they are not focused on specific use cases. So some organizations are more mature. They are using Gen AI per role. So there are some organizations using Gen AI specifically for project management roles and other roles as well. But depending on the maturity, there is more advance in how this GenAI technology is used or not. And what is coming later, that is already something that everybody is talking about. I'm sure that you already have heard a lot about it. And if not, you will start hearing about that. It's agentic AI. That is something that is starting as well in project management. We are already using it in different use cases, not in project management. In fact, we are already using multi-agents, so we can see that we are more advanced in other, let's say, professions than in project management, but it's coming here to project management as well. There are already some agents available. So basically, these are the three main, let's say, technological steps that we have currently, talking about current state. Most of the people know about the second Gen AI. Some use automation or will start using automation, and only a few are using agentic AI because it's something that is very new and is coming.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that introduction, Ricardo. So you know, it's very hard to get away from the subject of Gen AI as well. Does one of our the fellow panelists want to break that down a little bit more in terms of what they see the typical use cases are around Gen AI? Please feel free to jump in.
Sure, I can bring up a case of a small company that I'm familiar with. They've started using AI some months ago. First of all, they collected all the information they had about their R&D and deliveries. They put them in a specific format so that it could be digestible, could be easily consolidated. And they collected data from the last 5 years. You know, started an interaction with AI and tried to obtain key risk factors for their deliverables. You know, for example, late requirements accounted for a certain percentage of the events that occurred that impacted deliveries. So they used AI to understand better the risk categories in their deliveries. And that helped them, you know, narrow down and maybe focus on more specific contracts with their suppliers, more specific requirements, deadlines with their customers. Just as an example, but they had to put the work in to train AI with the appropriate type of data. They had to, you know, go back and forth and dialogue and find out which, you know, how to isolate outliers that were not really relevant and so forth. So just an example of how it can be used.
Thank you for that, Loredana. Ricardo V, may I ask, you know, if there's one or two examples you'd want to share, but also can you come back to this subject of agents and just assume that people don't really know what we're talking about with agents and explain what agents are as well, if I may be as bold to ask you. Yeah, thank you, Ricardo.
Sure. Look, what is happening? So let me start with Gen AI use. So every time you need to, for example, to create something, you need to do a brainstorming and this kind of things. You can have a very decent help from Gen AI. For example, some use cases to generate options for the scope of your project, to generate, for example, like work breakdown structures and this, to generate risks. For example, if you want to explore, for example, different areas of risks, you can upload, for example, your risk breakdown structure, and you can explain about your project and it can generate. So all of this is extremely helpful because it can speed up your process of getting information and this. So this is something I do a lot, okay? This is something I do a lot. Of course, you just need to be mindful on privacy and this, but this type of use case is very interesting. For example, sometimes I upload documents and I say, is there any potential risk on this document? For example, this procurement document. Is there any, for example, I'm making a statement of work. Is there any thing in this statement of work that could be rewritten in order to make it more clear? So these are some natural use cases of that. On the agent side, and these, as Ricardo said, this is for me a big, truly big thing, because this makes the concept of generative AI not just outputting to you a text or an image or a video, but the output becomes an action. For example, it can allocate, for example, I'm working a lot with agentic AI in project management. For example, you can do pretty much automatic resource leveling. For example, I can say, look, I need someone with this skill for this project. The agent can go on your pool of resources and based on the skills, try to identify which resource is available and at the same time, book this resource in the calendar and send an email, send a confirmation and do everything around, for example, that assignment. For example, if you have a supplier where you have already an agreement and you need some more material, it can automatically issue the purchase order, for example, for your project. So this is the nature of agentic AI. It's something that will take a role in the project. It's like you having an additional for the lack of a better analogy, another project manager working side by side with you to accelerate these action-oriented tasks. This is agentic, and this for me will be the big topic for this year.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that more as we talk about the near side future as well. I just wanted to raise this point because we're obviously talking about Gen AI initially, and one of the things that I know gets raised to me all the time is, can you trust the response, as it were, and doesn't it depend on what was used to train the Gen AI? Just go back to Ricardo a second. Sorry, Ricardo S. Ricardo S, just talk to us about, the quality of responses from Gen AI and that whole point about training.
Yeah, it is very variable. As you said, it depends on the data sources. So it's very important that we know where is that information coming from, so we can apply our critical thinking, check the sources, and check if what we are getting as an answer is accurate. If, for example, yes, very simple example is that I ask to any Gen AI, who is Ricardo Sastre Martín, and then I get a list of a description of myself. And then I wonder, why is this Gen AI tool saying that I like that? And the reason is because it's getting the extracts from the events where I'm participating, and it's taking information from there. So imagine I can create a website where I can say Ricardo Sastre Martín is the best project manager of the world. So then if that's taken as an input for the Gen AI, it's going to say that. So is that something we have to rely on? For me, not. So that's why I think critical thinking is one of the main skill sets that we have to apply when using Gen AI and try to find out where is that information coming from and validate ourselves. Okay, this is something I can rely on or not. And as the time goes, we'll be more trusting the Gen AI. But for now, I recommend always to check where is the data coming from.
Absolutely. Now, I'm conscious of time, and we've only literally just started the conversation, and I was going to ask Loredana about this in terms of, this trust in the responses, but just in the interest of time, I'm just going to jump to Josh, if I may. What's your take on the trust dimension of Gen AI, as it were?
Well, in my opinion, from what I've seen from models so far, I think AI is very immature at this stage from a cognition standpoint, because what we really get is, the whole garbage in, garbage out scenario. And, specifically with things like ChatGPT, and, Ricardo S. kind of mentioned this, you're really not looking at, in many cases, very reliable information. And the way the information is presented to the human being is just kind of well, here's a data dump of stuff that you requested. But it's not framed in such a way that is optimal for human thinking or even critical thinking. So the way the information comes at you is just data. But what we know from the brain, and even in application of behavioral science to project management, the way the data is presented to you can completely flip the script on whether you make a decision in the best way for the project or make a decision in the worst way for the project. And so in terms of Gen AI and even a lot of the AI models that are out there, those models aren't trained to optimally present information in such a way that's going to cause better decisions for the projects. And so this is kind of the thing that we have to look out for. And the way, and it really gives us some perspective on the way future AI models should be trained, because just dry data in and of itself is not enough to improve project management. It's the way the data is presented, it's the kind of data that's presented, and it's the way the human processes that information in their brain.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Josh. And I guess the headline there is caveat the responses that we get. And I'm sure we can talk about how to mitigate some of those responses. I've just had a question in from Christine that I love it. And I just want to pose it, and then we'll go to the quick poll that we're going to undertake. The question is, and I'll just throw this out to anybody that wants to jump in. How can large global organizations keep up? Many are still managing projects via outdated software, via manual processes, making decisions on data pulls from Excel, pulling data from Excel spreadsheets. It's a painful way of working in 2025. Any immediate responses to that question? How can companies keep up with this advance of AI?
I'm going to just say one thing really quickly, and that is, one, being open to the idea to begin with. And I've seen a lot of companies who are just resistant, but go ahead. Loredana, I think you were going to say.
Yes, no, I'm with you. Right now there is the two fronts, the pro AI and the against AI, and everybody has strong arguments. The response to this is that AI is here. Leadership and project management in particular are about transformation and change. We drive change as project managers. And the reasonable approach at this point is learn what you can about the technology. Introduce the technology in your organizations as part of your processes, not just as okay, I don't know what to do, I'm going to ask AI. Consider this as part of your processes that will account for and keep into perspective ethical issues, law issues, data privacy issue, legal concerns, all of this. You can't just say, I'm going to use AI and just go off and do it. It has to be part and parcel, especially in a large organization. I've worked for 30 years, 35 years in very large organizations. You need to have a structure around it. You need to have AI as part of your processes.
Thank you very much for that, Laurie. Sorry, somebody's jumping in, yeah?
Yeah, no, I just want to contribute. I understand the pain. And it's so interesting because in the past, to be big was a big advantage, so I'm big, I have a big advantage. Now probably is the opposite, because big organizations, they cannot move as fast as they want. What is for me, I cannot agree more with what Loredana just said. It, like or not, AI is here, okay? And you being against AI, it doesn't help you in any way. Okay, it will not make AI disappear from your life. So what I believe truly is that even large companies, if they cannot make this, I would say, whole transformation, they can start in areas. So they can, instead of saying, oh, let's shift everything. No, you can focus on some areas, some PMOs, and start implementing. You know what is the biggest mistake for me for large organizations is try to solve everything at once, and it's just impossible. At some point you need to start with something. So pick an area, pick a group, a type of project, and start applying AI, and then you start rolling out to different, because if you try to change everything at the same time, it will not happen.
I totally agree with that, and experiment in some areas and work out where your pain points are and focus in on that. And it's a journey, isn't it, Ricardo? It's not a sprint, as it were.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, I will say it as well that you have to start from the business need, not from the technology. So first identify which one are your needs, and based on the needs, we'll decide which one is the best technology to be used. But probably AI is not going to be the first one that you have to be working on.
Yeah,
you will have to do something else before, like preparing your data.
I think it goes back to Loredana's point that this is transformation, guys. You know, so you know, you plan out a transformation. Now, look, I'm really conscious of time, and we're already running 5 to 10 minutes over. I've just put up a quick poll that we're going to do here, just to see what people's feels before we now, you know, go beyond this and start talking about, well, what's coming, as it were. Sang, could you just launch the poll, please? I can't see it, Sang. Is it launched?
Yes, I've been launched.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Just if you could let me know what the results are, or a running commentary of the results, and we'll just give it a 30 seconds for a minute. I just want to see whether we're all behind AI in project management. Is it going to change our world, even with those global organizations that may find it challenging to keep up? Do we feel that it is going to change our world and allow us to undertake more projects in the next few years, as it were? Sang, what's the running tally there? Do we have a view of one of those ones that is?
There's 125 response so far, so maybe we can wait maybe a couple more seconds.
Okay. Oh, we can't see the results as they go, yeah?
Yeah, we can see. I can just publish it later. It's fine until we finish that.
Okay. Let's just give 10 seconds more. I'm sure very quickly round the panel. Josh, A, B, C, or D?
definitely A.
Okay, thank you. Loredana?
A.
Hold on a second. What's going on here then? Ricardo, S?
I'll go for B based on the maturity of the companies.
It's interesting. And Ricardo, V?
A/B.
You
More
can't
towards
have
A.
that.
More
You
towards
can't have that.
towards, if I need to pick one, A.
Okay, cool. Okay, Sam,
Okay.
what's everybody saying?
Right, I'm gonna close the post now. We can see the result, okay?
Okay. So I can't see it, Sang. If you could read it out for me.
65% of people chosen A, 19% chosen B, 8% chose C, and 8% chosen D.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's a few cynics on the call, guys, in terms of AI not changing how much we're doing projects. Any reflections on those results? You can see, and obviously it's slightly skewed because we're talking about AI in project management, but any reflections? It's very much A and B from the results, which was sort of the results of the panel as well. Any comments on that from anybody? As expected?
Yeah, I didn't expect. Actually, I'm surprised that we have so many A's because it's still, again, it's still a very unstable, very fluctuating, scenario that's in front of us. So many of us don't know yet what's happening, especially those, as we were mentioning before, working in large organizations. We don't know what the big shots are going to decide about AI, but it's here. It's here, and the sooner we learn about how to use it, how to leverage, how to dialogue effectively with this tool, the better it is for all of us.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We're sort of at the we just talked about the use cases, but we're still very much at the awareness stage, especially in bigger companies that may not, as Ricardo said, move as faster as smaller, more nimble companies. Any other comments?
Yes, Lloyd, I have one thing about your question, because I will just make a chat. When you say, do we believe we will undertake more projects as a result of the AI? I'm not thinking about us managing more projects as a result of AI, but existing more projects as a result of AI. And of course, why I said yes and maybe, and this, I think we will have more projects. But one thing that nobody wants to talk, and I am one of the fields that touch that, and because it's not very pleasant, it's that if we think project management is what we do now, I would say scheduling and this, and then I'm not so sure what will be our future as project managers if we do not rethink on that concept. And I know this is bold, and because everybody wants to say, okay, you will have superpowers to become a better project manager. But if you do not revisit what it's to be a project manager, and you still think that being a project manager is taking, analyzing projects and do this, then probably AI will do your job. Okay, I'm just being. I think, to be very honest with all of you on that.
I think it's a perfect segue into this sort of next stage of the conversation, which is, between now and the next 5 years, where is AI in project management going to go? And you can see that you are very much pointing towards the first point there about, the administrative workload being overtaken by AI. I think you were probably going even further than that, as it were, Ricardo. I'd love to know Josh's thoughts on what Ricardo's just said in terms of AI. And sorry, Ricardo, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were basically saying AI may run projects for us. Am I right in summarizing that in such a way?
Yes, but I'm not saying run means managing conflicts and doing this. Yeah. I'm saying the operational work that many project managers do. Like, for example, updating your risk register, like updating your schedule, assigning people to tasks, eventually creating reports. And these kind of things, I don't believe that the future will be great for those who think that this is all about project managers. However, if what Josh said, we start to believe that we need to solve conflicts, we need to use emotional intelligence, we need to use other types of skills to really make things happen, then I truly believe we are moving towards that. This is how I see.
Excellent. Thank you, Ricardo. Do you want to come back in here? Because I think this really sort of plays into your thoughts as well.
Did you say Josh, Lloyd?
Yeah, Josh. Yeah,
sorry, it broke up there for a second.
No problem.
Yeah. Like I spent a lot of time in the project controls world, which is cost and schedule monitoring. And my observation of that is that we do a lot of manual data entry, a lot of analysis that requires using software that requires the human interacting with the software to come up with analysis, right? And a lot of that stuff you can now do with AI. You can even use ChatGPT and build your own GPT to advance a lot of that stuff. But I think when all is said and done, going back to, are we designing AI around humans? And right now we're not. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to accelerate doing analysis, and we're going to accelerate getting data and information, and we're going to be back to square one where we are today, only we're just doing it faster. So I think we'll see some advancements in terms of performance because, for example, you can use AI to identify more scope and identify more risk where you hadn't thought of that before in the past. AI will help with that. But we're still left with this kind of, with the information that we have, are we still optimistic in our planning, for example? And the answer is yes, we will continue to be just as optimistic because we're all humans. So we're going to have this gap that unless we start designing AI around humans, we're just going to have accelerated data and accelerated information, but still no advancement in critical thinking unless we design that AI around the way humans think. So I think we're just going to end up in the same place we were, only faster.
I think this is a really good point. So what we're saying is let's assume that the AI is providing data-driven responses. So that there's a high quality in terms of the response from the AI. I think what you're saying is that doesn't matter unless we bring the human with us. I can give you the best prediction in the world. You can still ignore it, as it were.
Exactly.
Thank you. I was going to say, Loredana, do you want to come in on this point? It's a really fascinating point.
There was a large survey promoted by individual chapters of PMI a couple of years ago, and the outcome was that a lot of individuals and project managers did not believe that there could be a lot to do with AI with regard to estimation, for example. And I completely disagree with that, because estimation is where we fail continuously today. We are not good at estimating. Yes. Like Josh was saying, we have an innate optimism. No schedule ever is respected. Why? Because we tend to, miss out. We tend to be too optimistic. It takes 3 weeks to do that task. No, it's going to take you 3 months. If AI is there to evaluate all the lessons learned from 100 projects that we've done around this type of technology or this type of deployments, AI will tell us, no. In the past, it's taken you at least 3 months to do it. You're wrong. You have to break it down. You have to be more realistic. That's the interaction. That's the thinking that Josh was referring to. I completely agree with that. We need to focus on what we are not doing well as human beings, which is estimation. Even talking about emotional intelligence, sometimes AI, if it is properly trained, again, if it's a reliable tool, can give us some really nice insights as to, okay, I have these two people, this person has, always says this other person reacts that way. How can I help them work better? Sometimes AI can give some recommendations, which we as human beings need to be able to analyze and say, no, that's not going to work for them. Give me another option. How I can resolve this conflict and so forth. Like Josh said, we need to focus on what's helping us as human beings be a better project manager, not just data crunching per se.
Humans are.
Go on, sorry, Josh.
Humans are inherently cognitively lazy for a variety of reasons, and mostly it's associated with maintaining energy and safety, et cetera, according to the brain. But because when we get an opportunity to use something like ChatGPT, instead of developing the scope effectively on our own, now we use ChatGPT. But as soon as ChatGPT gives us an output, we're like, well, that's good enough, So it's like, well, now you've just went from, having to work really hard to do scope development to, I can just plug it into ChatGPT and, the output looks good enough. We'll roll with it. So, and, I just as a quick example, I used a little bit of our Neuroplan research, plugged it into a GPT, and just made a quick little experiment. And, I ran a comparison with a standard ChatGPT output versus an output that had a little bit of training on it. And the difference was very stark, because ChatGPT is hey, plan me a 3-bedroom house, and it would give you all these steps, but it's not really designed around the human, so it just kind of gives you, just a bunch of data. But if I use a trained GPT, it says, hey, unpack the tasks, use obstacle identification, frame it in such a way that the human accepts it, I get a completely different output. And so only with the training will you actually get more effective project management. Just standard Gen AI isn't going to do it.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting point, because if I go back to Ricardo V's point that actually the plan will be created to a high quality point of view from the AI, I wonder whether it matters that ChatGPT gives us a poorer answer. And I think it goes back to what really matters is how we take that information, take that data, and what we do with it. So, for example, how the sponsor is trained to accept those recommendations, what governance mechanisms are in place, etc. Now, for me, that's the skill in here. And if AI can provide great insights and it's trusted and it's accurate, for me, it's about how we accept and what we act upon in that data. Ricardo S., working for Microsoft, this must be a fascinating conversation about, the importance of change management, if you like, in terms of the technical solutions.
Yeah, in fact, change management is key. So this is not just about technology; it's about change management, change adoptions, and to be working with the people that are going to be using this in order to show them the value of using this new technology. Because, for example, going through what Ricardo was saying, the role will be redefined for sure. Because, for example, there are some tasks that the project managers used to do, like taking minutes of meeting. That's something I have never done anymore again, because Gen AI is doing it for me. And there will be more tasks like this, and more evolved and evolution tasks that will be taken over by Gen AI. So the role will be redefined for sure. Regarding the estimations that you were mentioning before, I think this is what you are trying to do in Grapefly. And yeah, for sure, if we already have the technology, we have the algorithms. So if we have the data, we can predict and have accurate estimations based on real data from past projects, not on estimations from human beings. But for that, we need to have the real historical data of what happened, not what we thought at the beginning that was going to be the plan. So if we have that, we have the technology already available for providing estimations, identify risks. So there are many things that can be done already, but organizations are not ready because there are some steps that we have to do previously before applying this.
I'm just going to go to Loredana before I come back to Ricardo V in 1 second. Look, Loredana, I'm aware that you're co-author of this new book around executives and AI, and I think this conversation plays into that. Is there some key points that are coming out in that book of yours around this sort of executive acceptance of AI that you'd like to talk about?
Yes. So first of all, like we were saying earlier, it's important to make sure AI is implemented by becoming part of the way of working, the way in which you operate as an organization. Like Ricardo Vargas was saying, we need to start from what we can tackle. We start with a pilot. We start with something that's manageable and contained. Like the company I was referring to, they started out with risk analysis. And what they did was they put together all of their lessons learned, all of the facts, the data from hundreds of projects in the last 5 years, and put it together in that regard. That started a dialogue, and the key word here is the dialogue. We, as human beings, sometimes I just was saying, I completely agree with you. We get to be so lazy because thinking quickly, reacting quickly saves us calories, energy, and whatnot. So we try and say, oh, let's go with that. No, we need to have a dialogue. It's not either or. It's either the human or AI. It has to be both and. It's a both-end approach, having both the human and AI dialogue come to a conclusion, just like Ricardo's as was saying a minute ago, we need to have the infusion of proper data analysis, but done with oversight, with some input and supervision from the organization, from the humans in the organization.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you know, I summarize that as the need for change management, and I totally agree at different levels as well. Ricardo, I'm just going to come to you in 1 second. I've just had a question in, and I don't want to put Josh on the spot, but I thought it was quite an interesting question, and it was what makes Josh think that AI is currently not designed around the human? If so, what does he suggest we do about it? Josh, do you want to just come back on that quickly?
Yeah, quick example. When I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of risks for a specific scope of work that I gave it, it just gave me a data dump of risks. Okay. So the way I look at those risks, if you look at cognitive dissonance in the brain, which is essentially mental discomfort associated with new information that conflicts with what we believe or think about a situation, it just gave me a data dump, and the data dump looks scary. Okay. So it was like, oh, here's this bad thing that could go wrong. Here's this thing that could go wrong. Here's this thing that could go wrong. Well, you look at that and you're like, I don't know about that. Well, in some particular situations, an executive might be, well, you know, because it's mentally uncomfortable, we'll just assign a low probability to it, or we'll just strike it off the risk register. It's going to be fine. We're optimistic. Everything will be okay. Well, I said, well, hey, ChatGPT, I want you to reframe this in such a way that the stakeholders would accept the risk and want to essentially do things to resolve them and mitigate them in the future. And so it gave me a completely different output that was comfortable. And now I look at the new set of risks and I'm like, oh, it presents it as a challenge. It presents it in such a way where I'm like, if I do this, I have a higher probability of success. Well, ChatGPT is just going to give you a data dump. Boom. If you redesign AI around the brain in project management, it will automatically respond in frames that are more acceptable to the human. It'll automatically respond in such a way that will cause humans to make better decisions around the project, and it will give you, unpacking examples in your planning. So there are so many different ways that you can design project management processes around the brain, and if you apply that to AI, then essentially you get a better output.
Yeah, and I think that's also, this whole point about prompt engineering, how you ask the question in the first place. Ricardo V, I'm just going to jump to you, if I may, sir. And again, I'm just going to start on the question and with a question, but then maybe come back to your thoughts on this whole debate. And this question, again, is coming from the audience, and it's about how best to implement AI. And what it's talking about is proprietary internal models, respecting data privacy, etc., versus larger external models. And it sort of touches on what Josh was saying there. What's your view? Can we balance the internal versus the external, Ricardo?
Look, if this event was 1 week ago, I would have an answer. Because the event is today, I may have a different answer, okay? So we all saw the announcements and all the marketing completely shaken yesterday with this DeepSeek chat. And I'm not talking about DeepSeek chat, okay? Because DeepSeek chat is just an example. What I'm saying is that if I was about to give the answer 1 week ago, I would say, look, don't think about developing your own large language model, because you will need a couple of 100 million to do something decent that Microsoft, that OpenAI, that Meta, all of them, they did, that you can subscribe and benefit, and you can tailor it in a way that you can increase your protection. And so, for example, Azure, you can have layers of privacy to assure that. This was my answer last week, okay? And it's absolutely valid, okay? However, if what happened yesterday, what was deeply announced last week, and all the markets shaking yesterday with DeepSeek, what is the trigger here is not because there's a new Chinese tool. It's because someone found a way, an algorithm that was able to train and succeed in spending far less energy consumption, chips, processor time, and this. If this is true, okay, why I'm saying this, because I haven't seen that, we don't know what is behind this, okay, but let's suppose this is true. This is a complete game changer, because this will allow you, for example, to eventually think about, for example, if you are, I would say, a decent sized company, to create your own large language model, proprietary, that was unthinkable, okay, a couple of days ago. If this truly becomes real, this is a massive game changer. We are talking about a whole new game being played if this, and this is why my answer is this way. But today, as I'm speaking today, I would use the tools. For example, I use a lot Microsoft and OpenAI services. And this because they are, don't think because you are using cloud that your information is being shared. No, this is not true. It's like when you use Office 365, your emails are on the cloud, but they belong to you. They are private. So you can have layers of protection to have your data private. So in the first moment, I would use this as a test and to see if they work. And if this evolution of what is happening in AI becomes true, then maybe in some time in the future, you can revisit that and even think about your own large language model. Okay, I don't have an answer for that because I don't know how the future will look like. Okay.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think it was fascinating, the announcements yesterday. One thing I've always talked about when it comes to AI is one of the massive benefits is that I can string all of the greatest brains together into one super brain and tap into that. So from my perspective, as long as you can work out the security, the data privacy dimension, surely the answer to the question is to blend internal data with external data. What do you think of that, Ricardo?
Yeah, so blend internal and external data is something that we already can do with the technology available, with LLMs available from the big companies like Microsoft, for example. But what Ricardo is mentioning is go beyond that. I think it's going to be a challenge for the organizations to be able to develop their own LLMs because the skills and the people that can do that are scarce resources. Not every company will be able to have access to those people. So these people from China that has developed this open source, they are genius. So this is not a role we'll find in every company. But to do a mix between what is already available and use your own data, that is what we are doing. Like, for example, with Copilot, of course, like Ricardo says, with respect to the confidentiality, because we are following responsible AI principles, that's already something that you can benefit on. Because for me, when I'm using ChatGPT just for personal purpose, what I'm missing is my personal data. Yeah, I can create my own ChatGPT, my GPT, but if you are using a tool like, for example, Copilot that is already integrated with the Office, you already have all the information from all your Office documents embedded together with external. So at this stage, I will put more focus on trying to make benefits of that than trying to develop your own LLM.
And it ties back to the earlier question about even how larger companies, how do they keep up? You know, this technology in all areas is moving so fast. And for me, that's where you sort of need to put your foot on the ball and have a strategic roadmap, a strategic journey. But yes, maybe you're doing some tactical experimentation. Now, I'm just conscious of time, and we've been touching on this all the way through this conversation. But before I do, so I'm just going to come back to you, Ricardo S., because there's been another interesting question that's come in, and it's about the use. You were talking about the use of critical thinking to parse out AI responses, and the risk that's been raised here is that if we rely more on AI, don't we lose that sense of critical thinking? Don't we lose that swarm of the collective knowledge? And any thoughts on that, Ricardo S.?
Yeah, I'm afraid that's something that is already happening, because as well, I'm professor in several business schools. I'm observing, maybe Loredana, you can confirm that many students are already using ChatGPT for delivering the answers. So in fact, what I'm doing, for example, in my next business school that I'm going to give classes, I'm going to say that it's mandatory to use GenAI. But that does not mean that whatever they copy and paste from ChatGPT or from wherever is going to be the right answer. So that's what the way I'm going to try to force that they use critical thinking, and show them, come on, what you are copying here does not make any sense. So you have to put your part on it. This is just not copy pasting. But yeah, there is a risk that we lose our critical thinking. And as I said before, this is the most important skill that we need to have now and in the future.
So Loredana, I'm sure You've got examples about this. How do we stop losing our critical thinking skills, guys?
No, actually, I just had an example from an assignment. I strongly encourage my students, they have to present an executive report to me every week, so individually. And so this one individual actually, took me up on the challenge, and she did post the query that she posed to, I think it was Copilot, regarding how to create a particular outcome, a report. And I saw that what AI, she had a couple of different interactions with AI, with Copilot, saying, can you condense this? Can you make it into 5 slides and whatever? And that interaction led to some outcomes, which she then reframed in a visible, in a clear, big font, nice, easy to see report that she then published. So yes, AI is fundamental, and yes, we need to train our students, our workforce, to learn and be proficient in the use of AI, and that can yield excellent results if you dialogue, if you use your critical thinking around it. I had an example, the previous semester, of the same question asked, the same report. Somebody just copy pasted what came out of Copilot. It was horrible. It was illegible. Nobody could make heads or tails of it. So yes, it's very important. And if we're thinking about near term, for the long term, we need to start training our workforce today. We need to start becoming acquainted with these tools today. There's no time to lose. We need to have a plan so that we get trained individuals, trained project managers, and know how to interact efficiently with the tool. Otherwise, we're going to be behind. It's like being on your back foot the whole time.
I love this conversation. I'm just going to play devil's advocate. Can't we train the AI to do the critical thinking for us?
There are, and Josh can take over for this. Yeah. But there are things that our brain can do that are not yet programmable in a machine, I believe. But you're the expert, Josh. You can answer better that question.
Well, I try, but I think there's a million different contexts that the human brain is taking in at all times that AI will never be able to do. For example, if I'm sitting in here with a conversation with all of you, my brain is constantly taking in a lot of different cues subtly And without my conscious effort, I'm looking at, everyone's faces. I'm determining whether they're disengaged, whether maybe it looks like they're thinking about something else. There's so many other things that are coming into a dynamic conversation with another human that AI just will never be able to pick up on until we've got video cameras and all these things from a million different directions. So, so there is a piece that AI will never be able to fill, hopefully. And the other piece of that is that can AI replace critical thinking? Or I would say it can augment critical thinking, but that's only if it's designed around humans, which right now it's not. It's just designed to give you faster data and faster analysis. But the way the data is presented is another piece of that. But just using unpacking as an example, which helps better decision making, AI is just going to give you data, but is it going to unpack it for you in such a way and frame it in such a way that it will actually increase your critical thinking versus just giving you a data dump?
I'm just going to challenge where we're at with this, because somebody told me about an example of the AI doctor that ended up with a better bedside manner than the human doctor. If you see where I'm going with this, Loredana,
Yes.
again, you would never think that AI could do a better job than a human doctor, but I understand that research has shown that is not the case. What's
Yes.
your thoughts on that?
Well, the reality is a lot of the bedside manners, a lot of the appropriate ways to handle a particularly delicate situation come from experience, human processing, but a lot of it is also part of a script that doctors do learn in school. They learn, okay, if you have to tell a person that they have an incurable disease, they only have 3 months to live, you have to go about it this way, because it's been proven that to be less traumatic, it's been proven to be less difficult. That's something that, depending on the tool you're using, AI can learn to do. And they could be very nice, very precise, very empathetic, even if it doesn't feel that they could ever be like a human being. But imagine this: it's really late on a like 5:37, 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night, and your customer that's always been haranguing you for this and for that, and your teams are in disarray, and there is a lot going on, and as a project manager, you get another complaint from the same very vociferous customer. You're ready to burst. Instead of writing a terrible email from which you have to walk away, get a cup of tea, come back and then rewrite it again 3 times before you send it. If you get something from AI explaining the situation, something that is a lot cooler, a lot calmer, a lot of different options. You can delete the options you don't want. You can add the options you want. It helps you deal with some situations in a lot less stressful way than you would, because again, we're human beings. We have a lot going on in our lives, in our minds, in our emotions. So
Yeah,
there is a lot there.
It's really interesting. I'm going to come to Ricardo V on this, because is Josh's argument that you can't train cognition into AI, is that a moment in time, and just because we're early in the AI life cycle, and we can't get there, or is it literally, we will never get there, as it were? Ricardo V, what's your thoughts on this?
No, I was about to say that. Look, Josh, I really like your answer. I have just one challenge with your answer. It's when you say never, AI will never. And look, 1 year ago, I said many things, never, and they became reality. What I see today is that it's such a large amount of money and such a vast amount of really big brains working on this, that I will not doubt that in the future, I don't know when, these will happen. okay, that we will have, I would say, this much more, I would say, human related experience on that. This is my first point. I don't know, and nobody probably knows if this will take 1 hour or sorry, 1 year or 100 years, but I think we are moving towards that. And I don't know, Josh, honest, if I like that or not. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a good move. I don't have the competence to say that. And second, what is a big concern also on this that I want to make sure we highlight here is that there is already, and this is what scares me a lot of organizations that are relying on AI to make decisions on this way, even knowing that this technology is not mature. So there is a recruitment websites that are doing avatar interviews, analyzing different points of the candidate, facial gestures, tone of voice, and that's trying to understand the fit of the candidate. So trying to mimic what a human, exactly what you said. And nobody knows if this is a truly competent process on that. Of course, the company always say it's competent, it's perfect, it's completely fair, but we never know. Some of them were even last year, they had to stop doing that because of bias and cognitive bias and this. But I think that the way we are progressing, I will not doubt that in the future, we may have AI playing roles, not I'm saying in project member, even in life, that would be very different. I see doctors, but I see also psychologists, AI psychologists, so people doing therapy, with online. So it's with AI. So I'm not here to judge that, but it's happening already.
It is coming. You can see even the latest version of ChatGPT is based around reasoning, isn't it, Ricardo?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you can see, and again, it's back to it's today. And don't get me wrong, I know there's a long way to go, but and it's your point about how far to go. You touched on ethics in the middle of that, and I don't think we can have this conversation without coming in from the ethical angle. Does anybody want to dive in about AI and ethics at all? Josh?
Well, I'll probably take a different perspective on ethics. I mean, I think a lot of the things on ethics are obvious. For example, biases and stereotypes and those types of deals. But a lot of that's what's commonly known as biases, right? In AI. So when I say the word bias, people think of prejudice or stereotypes and those kinds of biases. But there's a whole other host of cognitive biases, like the planning fallacy, for example. And the planning fallacy just explains the human cognition and the tendency to underestimate durations, optimism bias, the anchoring effect, etc. I think from that perspective, we're not addressing those biases. We're addressing the biases, social biases such as stereotypes and prejudice, but we're not addressing the other less commonly known biases that still impact our lives just as much, such as confirmation bias, which impacts us probably more than almost any other bias that there is in existence. And so I think we've got, from the ethics space, I think we've got a whole area of cognitive biases that we haven't even addressed yet.
Yeah, I agree, and it's part of that journey. I think that the harder thing is AI technology knows no boundaries, so it's very hard to litigate or to put laws in place when it's cross country, cross world, as it were. So, any other thoughts around ethics from anybody?
I think there are ways in which ethics can be pulled into the AI universe, so to speak, by, for example, ensuring that your trained, AI agent is able to adhere or is aware of your standards, your ethical standards, your ethical approach. Again, this is something more for those companies that can actually have their own instance, possibly, because then based on their company's values, they can say, well, this is how things are going to be done. But again, that relies on a very strong, very firm interaction between the training of the tools and the tools themselves. There are no laws at this point. AI is not legally liable for anything because, again, who would be liable? We don't know. Who's going to go to prison if AI makes a decision that causes, half the world to go belly up? We don't know. There is no framework for that. Ethical framework, I think it could be implemented based on, the goals and the priorities of the organization that is managing that. Otherwise, the alternative is a constant supervision, a constant verification, a constant interaction with AI.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that people will attempt to put laws in around responsible AI, for example, or as we see accreditation. So you've got certain accreditation, certain training courses you've been on. Actually, it's a really good question that's come in and completely linked. It's about, as a project manager, where we see that AI is increasingly using handling analytical and administrative tasks. What skills should a project manager aim to develop and maintain? And I think, I think, yes, the question's about project management, but maybe we can talk about at company level as well. Ricardo, do you want to get the ball? Do you want to get the ball rolling around, as a project manager, what skills should you be thinking about?
Yeah, normally when talking about the skills, I used to refer to the PMI, talent triangle, where we have the ways of working, the business acumen, and power skills. And basically, right now, at this moment, I'm already using GenAI for covering everything I do for business acumen and ways of working. And in the future, I think ways of working will be even more progressively replaced by AI, because we'll be able to have estimations, as we were mentioning before, risks from previous lessons learned. And the AI will be able to decide if this should be managed under a predictive approach, an agile hybrid, whatever. So I think that's something that AI will do soon. So what I say about the skills where we have to focus is, we need to keep learning about how to do the things, because we need to have our critical thinking in order to check that what AI is giving us is accurate and is the right thing. But the power skills are going to be the key ones, and not only because of the human relationship, because we have to take into consideration that we are used to human interactions in the projects, but now we are already having human to AI, and now we are going to start having AI with AI. So there will be less humans, let's say, in the projects, because the AI will do tasks itself. But even though I agree that we need to keep and reinforce our power skills related to human management, the two main power skills that we have to reinforce, as said, is critical thinking, again, and growth mindset, because this is changing so fast. So as it was Ricardo saying, yesterday there was a major impact in the world, not only financial, but as well a change in the paradigm. So we need to be with a growth mindset, learning every day, because what you know in the morning is not valid anymore in the afternoon. So for me, those are the two main skills: critical thinking and growth mindset.
Does anybody want to build that further in terms of critical skills then, if you're a project manager with all this movement going on, critical thinking and growth mindset? Does anybody want to add to that?
Certainly prompt engineering, certainly listen to, go and follow. There is plenty of wonderful training and information out there. Just go on LinkedIn and you see, Ricardo Villa's got an entire program that's fantastic. Podcasts, be in the loop, be aware of what's happening. That is a constant element.
Absolutely. Let me add one thing. I think on the top of the two skills Ricardo said, I would add one thing, adaptability. And I think this is one of the most critical. We need just to understand that we are all trying to build something in a land that is still being developed. It means that what we are saying here is not written in stone. Things just may change. Maybe tomorrow something happen. And what is the biggest value for all of us is to be able to adapt and to revisit. Okay, I thought that these would be, and this is critical for what we do as a project manager. And I cannot agree more, Loredana, with what you said. You need to research. You need to test. Look, I don't have too much time in life, okay? But when people start saying, have you seen DeepSeek and this? Do you know what I did? Immediately. Let me download. Let me use. Let me check what's going on. Let me do my own research. And then I said, wow, what is that? So you need to be curious. You cannot just say, oh, let me sit here and wait all of this to happen, because if you wait, you will fall behind. There is a good chance that when you say, oh, let me stand up and try to run, it's already too late. It's already too late. And this is something that we all need to work together. One of the reasons of this webinar is to do that, right? It's exactly like it's to do that. It's to make sure that we are all aligned and thinking, because the scenario is very, very unstable.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of this conversation. And, whether we call it power skills or soft skills, you can see all of these coming to the fore. What one thing I would just challenge to people, and having looked at some of the courses that are coming out recently, it's almost like you need to know everything about everything. So there's a how do I build a requirements analysis? How do I work out a skills capability matrix? How do I do a meeting minutes? How do I do test cases? And I think one of the risks for me that a project manager almost becomes a jack of all trades, master of none. So for me, this is where the company layer comes in as well, in terms of the company, like it would do normally, working out which tools, which skills you need to use those tools as well, rather than the project manager having to know everything about every tool. You just can't keep up, no matter how curious you are, So for me, I think there's a company layer, company obligation here to set the direction that we as project professionals need to go in. What do you think of that, Ricardo S? Yeah. The role of the company when it comes to upskilling project managers.
Yeah. So it's impossible to know all. In fact, in Microsoft, what we have internally as a principle is you cannot know it all, but you can learn it all. So here the key aspect is to know what to learn. As Ricardo says, we need to have curiosity. We need to try and learn what is coming. But we need to put focus, because there are so many things that it's impossible. There's no human being that can be on top of everything that is being developed in this field. So we need to be very clear on what we want to be focused on and go step by step, but always with curiosity and trying to learn every day about that specific. But I recommend focus, because if not, we'll get mad trying to learn about everything, prompting, machine learning, how to do coding. So we cannot go for everything. So let's put focus. But every day we need to learn something.
So I'm really conscious that we're into the last 10 minutes of the conversation. Time's absolutely flown. So if you've got any last Q&As, please do drop them in there, and hopefully we'll get to one more. One that's come up earlier, actually, and it goes back to agents, and it's a general question about, what should we do as a company to embrace agents? What technical approach should we take? Ricardo S, is this one for you, or Ricardo V? So embracing agents.
if you can go for it, Ricardo.
Yeah, okay. So first step, know what is agents. What you should do small pilots and this. Remember that if you are authorizing AI to act on your behalf, make sure that you know what you're doing. Why? Because remember, if there is an hallucination, the hallucination will transform into action. This is the first. So create a small pilot, try to frame a scope and start using it. Second, there are hundreds of agents being developed, okay? OpenAI is developing agents. Microsoft developed several and is developing agents for Copilot and this. So you know which type of agent. I would say I would not go to develop my own agent now, as Ricardo mentioned for LLM. It makes no sense at this stage, but I would be very cautious on looking to the options and starting this in a small pilot to see if the results are the results we expect. For example, I did that. I'm using agents to analyze critical resources in a project and to make some assignments. So what I'm doing, I created a test project with people on leave, people with different skills in this, and I'm using AI to make the best possible assignment. The result so far is very, very nice. Is it perfect? Not yet. But it's, I would say, 85%. And this is the way I'm getting used to the agents. Remember, if you use an agent, the action will be taken. For example, if you put your credit card and you use an agent to define your trip, maybe you will wake up, with a taxi in your door that is already paid by you, and you don't even know to take you to somewhere because you just allowed AI to do that. So just be mindful, because it's not just an output as a text or as an image, but as an action. Okay, and you define which action. So this in terms of technology, and I would use the technology that already exists, and I will use the platforms I'm already using. If I'm using Azure, I will use that, because just to reduce and not add one additional layer of complexity in what I'm doing. This is just my 2 cents. Maybe Ricardo and the others can add some other aspects on the technical side.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Ricardo V. So using existing platforms and experiments and back to that critical thinking and adaptability. Now, I'm really conscious that we're coming to an end, and I want to give each of you just a short platform to sort of summarize their thoughts. Loredana, I'm going to come to you first of all, if I may. Do you want to do a sort of wrap up moment for us?
AI is here. We, as project managers, as leaders in our respective environments, need to step up, need to keep connected to others in our thought community, if not in our immediate physical community, to learn more as much as we can about this, to become proficient. It's our responsibility to start interacting with these tools. We pick one, we pick two, we compare the notes. As we work with the tools, we are training those tools also. We say, don't give me this, give me something more concise, give me the risks in priority order, all of that. It's up to us to keep up. It's up to us to start the dance. If we stand still, we're going to be wiped out. We need to start the dance. It's a journey.
I love that. Start the dance. I remember being a young man, never wanting to start the dance. Maybe I'm a bit more mature these days. Ricardo S, are you ready to start the dance?
Yeah, so basically there are many things going on. This is going very, very quick. There are many news. Not all are for real. So we need to have our critical thinking as well about what we read. But when talking about AI, I always refer to the real experts. So I'm an expert in delivery, not in AI. I work with AI for several years, but I don't consider myself an expert. And it's probably considered, for example, the Microsoft CEO, Mustafa Suleyman, that he was as well the co-founder of Google DeepMind, that was acquired by Google. And he really believes that AI is going to wear past the humans. And he's a real expert, and he agrees with many other experts in his level. So I really believe this is going to change the world we are living. We are in a very preliminary stage, but this is a major thing what is coming. So we need all to be prepared for it, and as Ricardo said, be able to adapt to what is coming and learn how to make use of this change, because the change is not going to be a stop. We will have to adapt to it.
Excellent. So we're starting the dance. We're in preliminary stages. We must learn how to adapt. Josh, this keys it up for you, sir. What's your thoughts?
I'm also going to echo what Ricardo has said about critical thinking, and say critical thinking is found in the science of decision making, which is found in the sciences of decision science, which is found in its roots in behavioral and cognitive science, because it's all about the brain. So when all is said and done, and we have less tasks to do, the main task that will be left for in many cases for the human to do is to make a decision. So if we want to become more critical in our roles in the future with the advent of AI, it's all about critical thinking, which starts in behavioral science. We need to learn how to make better decisions, which is also forms around the science of debiasing. So that's going to be critical in the future, and also train the AI around the brain. So, thinking creates mental representations. Mental representations become words. Words coordinate actions. Coordinated actions assemble things, and assembled things become product. But at the center of all that is the thinking component. So when you add AI and you add the brain, you've got the artificial intelligence and you've got the natural intelligence. Those two together make the best combination.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Josh. Just building further on that, Ricardo V, do you want to add a couple of thoughts to round the conversation out?
Yeah, what I can tell you, it's I'm already dancing this AI dance. Of course, many times stepping in the foot of my partner, trying to improve. But I think that what you cannot do is to sit and wait. Okay, even if you do not know exactly how to dance, just stand up and do your best. Try to learn and try to revisit, but just do not sit and say, I don't know how to dance, so let's see what happens. So this is what I'm trying to do every single day. Every single day I'm trying. Many times I do things wrong. I make poor decisions on AI, and this is life. It's better than make no decision.
Brilliant. And again, that chimes with Ricardo's S about being curious and taking a leap of faith and working on things. Guys, we've got a minute left, so just a final roundup. Thank you so much for your time today and your brilliant answers. It sounds like we're starting this journey into AI in project management. Even though it's been around a little while, it's now starting to explode. So I'm hoping that everybody that took time out of their precious day learned a little bit more today. As I said before, I would encourage you, if you want to connect with any of the panelists, do reach out on LinkedIn. It seems to be the primary channel. Do follow Greyfly for more AI in project management stories. But you heard it here first, guys. Time to start the dance. Time not to stand on the sides. Time to embrace AI in project management. Be curious, be learning, and move forward to critical thinking and decision making. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks.
Always great to see you all. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.